Safety first, be sure to wear your safety glasses, ear protection, and a breath mask. Once you've got all of these in place, then you can begin. Honestly, the breath mask isn't necessary if you're going to be doing this next step using a hammer and chisel because there's no fine particulate in the air. But still want you to be prepared just in case. Hammer and chisel is the way that people have cut rocks for centuries. It's how they built cathedrals in ancient times and even the pyramids. For our purposes, it's a little bit risky because when you use a hammer and chisel, every strike risks breaking something that you don't want broken. Say you're trying to break this line here and you use a hammer and chisel, well, it might break off the corner and then this whole stone is worthless. But if you decide to do this anyways and go ahead, move this stone to a place where it's not sitting on the other stones that you need intact. That way the force that goes through from the hammer into the chisel and travels down to the stone doesn't then travel through these stones and potentially break them in a place you don't want them broken. Place the chisel along the line, hold it firmly down into the stone, and then using your hammer, test, and then hit and follow through. Do this at either end of the place that you want cut. And remember that it's not just this line here that you are cutting out. It's not like a stamp where you can just stamp it out and you get the perfect stone. You have to go all the way across the stone, including the parts that aren't marked out. You're gonna cut a clean line directly across the rock. But for my purposes today, I'm not going to be using a hammer and chisel. I'm gonna be using this bad boy. This is a stone cutting saw. It's got a diamond blade. And the way that you use this is very self-intuitive. If you rent one of these saws to use on your project, then I would highly recommend that you go to their website and look up how to use them. But I'm gonna show you what I do. Big disclaimer, I'm not responsible for your actions with any power equipment. I am using power equipment. I'm a trained professional in this. Before I turn it on, I'm going to get my posture and position correct. Once the saw is going, I'm going to squeeze the handle until the saw blade is running at max capacity. That's what these blades are built for. They're built to cut when the saw is running at top speed. And then I'm going to align myself so that the cut is going across my body like this in front of me. And then I'm gonna hold the saw out like this, rest my elbows on my knees, and let my weight go down through my shin bones. So my hands are holding the saw. The weight is then going through my forearms into my knees. The saw's weight is being counterbalanced by the rest of my body. You can see it like this. So the weight is coming up here from the saw through my arm, down into my knee, down into my foot. And when I'm like this, I want to rock back and forth to cut the stone and the material. Now, when I'm cutting, the saw is going to be actually resting. So I won't be holding very much with this hand. I'm mostly going to be guiding the saw. I don't want to push into the rock. I don't want to apply any pressure. I'm gonna let the saw do the cutting on its own. I'm just going to guide it and pull it back and forth. If this is your first or second or 10th time doing this, I would recommend that you pull the stone aside and cut it off in a separate area. Once the stone is cut, pull the saw out, turn it off, set it aside, and break off the pieces of the rock that you don't need. It's very possible that even if you cut a stone correctly all the way, that it might have some flaw in it that will break when you are breaking off the extra pieces of rock. But that being said, let's cut it. Once you're all the way done with your cuts, make sure that the blade has stopped spinning. An easy way to do that is just to grind it against some other stone or the ground. Diamond blades don't dull the same way that a regular blade would. If you took a regular blade and ran it through the dirt, that would dull it immensely. But a diamond blade is more like high velocity sandpaper than anything else, and really expensive sand. Now that you're done with your cuts, you can set the chop saw aside, but keep your safety glasses just in case. Take a hammer and chisel and just separate the stone from the other broken pieces. You can just bang on them if you want. They'll often come right off. And then take those pieces, you can get rid of them. I'll have to pick that up later. But for now, you can see that this stone fits in here pretty great. So now that we've got our stones in place and cut, to match this space, it is time to level them.